This week on Christian World News, an explosive growth of Christianity in a country where 99% of the population is Muslim. Plus, they grow up on the streets fighting off witch doctors and sexual predators. Meet the woman who's coming to their rescue, body and soul. And Uncle Tom's Cabin helped spark America's Civil War and led to freedom for millions of slaves. Learn about the faith and courage of the man that book is based on. Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of Christian World News. I'm George Thomas. My colleague Wendy Griffith is on assignment. It's an area that was once hostile to the gospel, but now an amazing revival is moving through the northernmost reaches of Africa, and tens of thousands of Muslims are turning to Christ. Watch. These images of North Africans worshipping have never been seen before on television. As the sun sets over the Mediterranean Sea, Muslims across this part of Africa are converting to faith in Jesus Christ in record numbers.
What God is doing in North Africa, all the way from actually Mauritania to Libya, is unprecedented in history of missions.
Tino Kahush, a graduate of Regent University, has spent years traveling the region to document the transformation.
I have the privilege of recording testimonies and listening to first-hand stories of men and women, all ages, where they can be sitting in a room and see the appearance, the presence of God appear to them in reality. It's like a vision. Some of them gave me stories of they carry a conversation. It's not just a light that appears.
His interviews confirm what experts say is a profound move of God in the predominantly Muslim nations of Mauritania, Western Sahara, Morocco, Algeria, Libya, and Tunisia.
Sometimes I feel jealous. How come it's visiting the Muslim world at this time and age where we don't hear that happening in the traditional Christian community?
From the shores of Casablanca in Morocco to Tripoli, Libya, experts say the growth of Christianity, especially in the last 20 years, has been unprecedented. And nowhere is that growth more evident than in the North African nation of Algeria.
In fact, we never thought the Algerian church would grow so big.
Pastor Salah leads one of the largest churches in Algeria, where 99% of the population is Muslim. He says every new Christian in his church came from a Muslim background. Some 1,200 believers attend the church.
In fact, since we started as a church until today, we've baptized on average 150 to 160 believers per year.
Men like Zino, who was invited to attend Pastor Salah's church by a friend.
I saw Algerians worshiping God with all their hearts, and it touched me.
Others like Farhat speak of miraculous encounters. He says he was illiterate and couldn't read the Bible when he accepted the Lord. Then God made a change.
Since then, I've read the Bible and understood the Word of God. This is just an example of what God has done in my life, and this is the case of many, many people here in Algeria.
Even though Algeria is overwhelmingly Muslim, the government has given Protestant churches the freedom to register their congregations.
It is the first Muslim Arab government who recognized officially churches from Islam.
Yusuf Kurahmani is a leading Algerian pastor. He says the government will harass and intimidate Christians from time to time, but the level of persecution is nothing like it was 20 years ago.
God has given to us many opportunities to witness at the police stations, at the courts. And actually, once I went to the police station and they gave me 45 minutes to speak about Jesus. Just imagine yourself, they are all Muslims. Well, tell us about Jesus, please.
But Algeria and the countries of North Africa weren't always open to the gospel. Peter is a veteran missionary in these parts.
You know, there's that parable, the sower went out to sow and the seed fell on stony ground. This is North Africa. In those days was quite resistant and stony.
For security reasons, we've altered his voice and concealed his identity.
The religion and the culture were unsympathetic to anything that was foreign, and Christianity was considered to be the religion of the Europeans.
Peter believes the arrival of satellite TV and the internet have dramatically changed people's perception of Christianity.
Today in North Africa on TV you can hear native Arab Christians talking about their faith, who are mature Christians, answering questions, involved in debates.
Emboldened by God's power, Algerian Christians are now on a mission to take the gospel to the four corners of the globe.
God has put in our heart to be able to send 1,000 missionaries by the year 2025. And I really believe maybe one day America will end up with some Muslim converts, missionaries coming to reach out to the Muslims there and other parts as well.
Up next, the horror of Haiti's street kids. Alone and abused, they struggle to survive. How this woman listens to their stories and heals their hurts. Life on the streets anywhere is dangerous, especially for a child. In Haiti, it's deadly. Caitlin Burke traveled to the island nation to see how one woman is providing a safe haven for the street children of Cap Haitien. She is not only there meeting the physical needs, but spiritual needs as well.
Each morning, Lindsay Jorgensen wonders if the street children of Cap Haitien will choose the refuge she offers or try to survive on their own.
The first thing I do is pray, because you need God to be able to do this job.
Lindsay is the founder of Street Hearts, an organization born from a bond with the kids who captured her heart.
The streets of Haiti are no place for a child, but because of poverty, abusive situations, or simply having no family, that's where many of them end up.
They're forced into adulthood at 5, 6, 7 years old. And the longer they're on the street, the harder it is to reverse their mentality or to come in and try to help guide them, because at that point they've already been so wronged that they feel like they know everything and everybody's against them.
Lindsay first connected with the street children of Haiti in 2012. She would literally run across them on her daily jogs along the boulevard. She soon discovered they shared something in common.
It was kind of like I definitely stuck out and I was the odd person in town, and they are also in their way the odd ones left out in their communities. They didn't have anyone, I didn't have anyone, and we just started hanging out.
By earning their trust, she heard their stories.
I was 6 when I was in the street. I had a friend named Zama, and he was on the streets with me. And I was in the street with my friend Zama, and some other street guys came and wanted to cut us with a blade. Everywhere I went to go to sleep, they came and followed us with that razor blade. Guys used to come and beat us and take money from us. Money we collected begging in the street.
Heavy sexual abuse, kids as young as 7 engaged in sexual acts with men for food.
That's why Lindsay started Street Hearts. Her mission? Create a safe haven for boys living on the streets of Haiti. The ministry recently realized it had an even bigger calling due to an increase in street violence.
One thing we've seen recently is child sacrifice, and that is due to the voodoo here, that a voodoo doctor would come and for whatever reason someone would pay to steal a child's soul. So then they kill the child, they basically stone him to death, and then they take the soul of the child. Oftentimes they'll take their teeth or something, and then they do a spell, and that soul gives whoever that wants it power and influence.
That evil led Street Hearts to offer what's called Phase 1. Kids who aren't ready to fully leave the streets can catch a tap-tap or Haitian taxi that will take them to the Street Hearts shelter. They receive a meal, shower, and clean bed for the night. Then they officially join the program and move into a bigger shelter. A Street Heart team works with each boy, teaching responsibility, discipline, and respect. Most importantly, they learn they are somebody and they're loved.
We serve as father figures to them, and we use that as medical treatment in their lives.
Patience, love, more patience and some more love. You just gotta be patient with them. Most likely they'll come along.
Lindsay feels a daily struggle between the weight of her work and the normalcy of it all.
You never know what's going to happen. You don't know if a child's going to die that day, who's going to be sick. And then on top of that, you're dealing with basically the day-to-day mom stuff, which is school, soccer practice. This one's got this issue. One kid wants you to see his art project, running errands everywhere. And it's not, 2 children, it's 75.
Phase 3 helps those over 18 focus on workforce development. The Street Hearts team finds partners to take on the kids as interns. The progress can be slow. Transforming a hardened adult in the body of a 6-year-old back into a child takes time.
It's imperative that you take a step back from time to time to just look at them and see how far they've come, whether it's in their mannerisms, the way they dress, how they represent themselves, getting report cards. One of our most troubled kids is the president of his entire school.
Jorgensen says that above all, her hope for these children is that she will see them in heaven.
That is so important for me. When I die, and I pray that I die before them, I cannot see one more kid die. I want to just sit at the gate and wait and watch them all come in.
And so she presses on, relentlessly seeking the boys she hasn't yet been able to reach.
The kids know that every night the tap-tap will come, but it's still up to them whether they accept the help or stay on the streets.
Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Cap-Haitian, Haiti.
Coming up, he's the model for one of the most inspiring pieces of American literature, the Christian man who escaped slavery and set an example for the nation. The character of Uncle Tom has become known as a racist stereotype here in the United States, but the primary inspiration for the book Uncle Tom's Cabin lived an extraordinary life. John Jessup tells us why.
When Uncle Tom's Cabin was published in 1852, the anti-slavery novel flew off the shelves. 17 printing presses ran 24 hours a day to keep up with the demand, making it the best-selling novel of the 19th century.
The book struck at our emotions as a nation, and it made us see ourselves. It was our emotional mirror, and it prompted some individuals to rethink how they thought of slavery.
Uncle Tom's Cabin has been cited as a factor leading to the Civil War. When Abraham Lincoln later met the author, Harriet Beecher Stowe, he reportedly said, "So you're the little woman who wrote the book that started this great war." In 1852, the backlash was immediate and powerful.
In the South, the book was banned. And if you were caught selling the book, you were either going to be killed or thrown in prison. There was tremendous fear that this book would make a difference.
It did by portraying Uncle Tom as a dignified, intelligent, God-fearing man. In the South, however, traveling Tom shows became popular, depicting him as a submissive buffoon, happy in his enslaved condition, a stereotype that still exists today. There were also attempts to discredit Harriet Beecher Stowe. The author countered with a key to Uncle Tom's Cabin, an exhaustive bibliography of the real people behind her fictional characters. It included her primary inspiration for Uncle Tom.
Josiah Henson was an individual who demonstrated extraordinary courage. He tried to help other people, especially whites in this country, to understand the reality of slavery.
Josiah Henson's story begins here in Rockville, Maryland, on the outskirts of Washington, D.C. Now, this suburban neighborhood was once a 570-acre plantation, and the house behind me is where the owner lived, a man named Isaac Riley.
In this time period, masters wanted to present themselves to be very benevolent, these patriarchs who cared about their people that were enslaved, but the presentation that Henson gives us was that didn't happen for Isaac Riley.
I faithfully served Riley for many years. He was coarse and vulgar in his habits, and unprincipled and cruel in his general deportment.
Henson's autobiography provides many examples of Riley's cruelty, like the day he discovered a book on grammar hidden in 9-year-old Josiah's cap.
When Riley saw the book, of course, he was outraged because it was unheard of that his enslaved people would learn to read and write.
Pick up that book he cried, using an awful oath. At last I was obliged to do it, when he beat me across the head and back till my eyes were swollen and I became unconscious.
Despite the harsh treatment, Henson proved to be trustworthy. Eventually elevated to overseeing the plantation, he was able to ease the harsh conditions faced by his fellow slaves. When he was 18, he was even allowed to attend a revival meeting. Although not permitted to enter the church, he heard a life-changing message from preacher John McKinney.
He said, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, tasted death for every man. It touched my heart, and I cried out, I wonder if Jesus Christ died for me. Again and again did the preacher reiterate the words, for every man. Oh, the blessedness and sweetness of feeling that I was loved.
And that meant a lot to him because he knew that God would always be on his side. He would deliver him, and he would decide his plan in life.
The plan included moving his family and 18 others to Isaac Riley's brother's home in Kentucky. When they got to Cincinnati, Henson found his faithfulness tested. Although Ohio was a free state and many free black men encouraged them to stay, he stood firm.
He felt like he had been tasked with this duty, and he was going to fulfill it. He had taken care of them, and they felt like if he wants us to carry along, we'll go with him.
Henson came to regret that decision. 3 years after their arrival in Kentucky, those who followed him were put up for auction.
Husbands and wives, parents and children were to be separated forever. From that hour, I saw through, hated, and cursed the whole system of slavery. One absorbing purpose occupied my soul, to gain freedom, self-assertion, and deliverance from the cruel caprices and fortunes of dissolute tyrants.
Because of Henson's management skills, he and his family were initially allowed to stay together. 2 years later, however, his time had come. The only option, escape. A major obstacle was the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793, which meant he and his family could be captured even in a free state. So he set his sights on Canada.
It was a 600-mile journey that he would have to make on foot with his wife and 4 children, traveling by night, sleeping by day, super dangerous. But he knows he's got to go to Canada. It's the only place that he can truly be a free man.
His wife made a sling for Josiah to carry the 2 youngest children on his back. With only the North Star as their guide, the Henson family began their journey. After 40 grueling days, they arrived at Lake Erie just across the water from Canada. A sympathetic ship captain offered to take them the rest of the way.
He put his hand on my head and said, "Be a good fellow, won't you?" I felt streams of emotion running down in electric courses from head to foot. "Yes," said I, "I'll use my freedom well."
Henson helped start a black settlement in Ontario, including a multiracial school, almost unheard of at the time. To raise money and awareness, he preached throughout the United States and England, where he was granted a private audience with Queen Victoria. During those years, he risked his life to help a total of 118 slaves reach freedom in Canada.
He's an inspiration for me personally, and I hope for many people as they hear this story, to use our freedom well, right? To use our resources, our time, our money, our energy, our voice, our influence, to use it on behalf of those with less than us.
Near the end of his life, Josiah Henson returned to the plantation he once managed. Although many of his experiences here were unimaginably painful, he could see God's hand in them. Later writing, "Sharp flashes of lightning come from black clouds." John Jessup, CBN News, reporting in Rockville, Maryland.
What happens when a remote tribal group receives God's word in their own language for the very first time? If it's Papua Indonesia, the answer is a huge party. Stan Jeter brings us this remarkable story.
The singing and dancing began as the tribespeople gathered near the small mountain airstrip in Papua, Indonesia.
We're here to celebrate the finishing of the complete Bible in the Hoopla language. So this is it. This is exciting stuff for us. We've been partnering with the missionaries that have been working to translate these things for years and years and years. And so it's just great to be able to come and join them in the celebration.
For the past 40 years, Brown and other mission aviation pilots have flown the translating team in and out of the Soba airstrip. One frequent passenger was Sue Trenier, an Irish missionary. She helped Christian tribesmen translate the Old Testament.
We're sitting here on the top of the Soba airstrip, where the first plane landed here in 1968. Most of the Hoopla tribe of 3,000 people are busy digging pits to cook these pigs. They'll be having services, they'll be praising God, they'll be singing. There's all different groups from different churches. So all we're seeing here is like a Hoopla tribal party.
It took over 200 roasted pigs to feed the crowd. The spears the men carry are real, but after the gospel arrived 50 years ago, they stopped using them in tribal warfare. The New Testament was translated into their language, and the newly founded church began to grow. During this event, 26 converts were baptized. But the highlight of the celebration was the delivery of the completed Hoopla Bible.
This people group has had the translation in the New Testament for a while. And what really makes this dedication today unique is that it completes the story. It's the Old Testament.
The first Bibles were given to a young man representing the youth, to a woman to stand for all women, and to an older man, recognizing those who had waited many years for the entire Bible in their language. According to Wycliffe Bible translators, over 1,800 languages are still waiting for the start of a Bible translation project. Stan Jeter, CBN News.
Wow, absolutely incredible. Well, folks, thank you so much for joining us this week. Until next week, from all of us here at CBN News, wish you a fantastic weekend. Goodbye, and God bless you.